I don't talk about it a lot on this channel, but I love superheroes. I've been obsessed with them ever since I was a kid. The first movie that I ever remember seeing in a theater was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Superhero movies filled me with awe and wonderment as a child, and it's part of why I love movies today. My love for superhero movies eventually led to me being obsessed with the characters the movies were based on. I had this huge encyclopedia dedicated to superheroes. It contained information about every superhero ever created from the beginning of time all the way up to 2004. I scoured the pages of this book every day, and it's probably the only reason I know about so many Marvel and DC Comics characters, because truthfully, I was never that big into actually reading comics. It's definitely the only reason I know about characters like Batman, the human flying saucer. As I've gotten older, I've been amazed at just how many of the characters I read about have come to life on the big screen. As a kid, I never imagined that we would get a Thor movie or an Avengers movie, but we got them. I also never wanted or expected there to be an Ant-Man movie, but now we have two. And in the coming years, we're just going to get more and more movies about superheroes that have never been adapted into live action before. However, for as amazing as all of this is, and as happy as it makes me, there is one character that I read about in my encyclopedia all those years ago that hasn't gotten a movie yet. And it's a shame, because I think it would be the most fun and outrageous superhero movie ever. I want a movie about Stripperella. Believe it or not, Stripperella is a character created by Stan Lee. She's essentially a spoof character for mature audiences who is meant to parody superhero tropes. In her personal life, she goes by the name Erotica Jones, where she works as a stripper at the Tenderloins. That is, until she gets a call on her belly button ring. Then she transforms into Agent 69, Stripperella, a superhero with undefined powers. To make things even more bizarre, the character was originally based on the likeness of Pamela Anderson, who also voiced the character in the cartoon. And yes, Stripperella had her own animated series in 2003. In fact, that's the only piece of media that she has. Her comic book never even left the ground, so she's technically not even a comic book character. From what I gather, the Stripperella show ended because a real stripper filed a lawsuit against Stan Lee and Spike TV for stealing her idea, and because of that, the show never got a second season. But disregarding the legal trouble, I can't imagine it would have held out very long anyway, because the show is not good. The show is very much a comedy, but more times than not, the humor falls flat on its face. Most of the dialogue is just written around terrible sexual puns.
You can either come quietly or come screaming after I work you over.
I'm not coming at all.
When it finally does have a decent joke, it will often either drag it out so long that it's no longer funny, or will stop the joke to outright explain it. It also has the kind of self-aware meta-humor that is more often annoying and lazy than it is clever. For example, it tries to make fun of how lame superheroes are, but so often it will mistake making fun of being lame for actually being lame. The net result is just really lame humor. Or when the show does something stupid, only to acknowledge that what happened was stupid.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten out of a perilous situation because of an unusual gadget that had been conveniently given to me earlier that day.
Honestly, it would be a lot better if this dialogue was cut from the show. The tone of it is also really weird because despite being created by Stan Lee, who is known for Marvel characters like Spider-Man, Stripperella feels like a parody of DC Comics characters like Batman. In fact, the animated style is almost exactly like a Batman the Animated Series. The show lacks any energy at all. It's paced really poorly and it just feels so dead. In other superhero comedies like Thor Ragnarok, everything feels so fast and energized, but not here. Here, everything just seems to be going below the speed limit. But you know what is going over the speed limit? The horniness of this show. It's not really a secret that this character was marketed as jerk-off material for guys.
Stan Lee created you for, well, not just for us, but for millions of horny guys like us.
So I guess in order to deliver on that promise, the show has these strip teases that are just terrible. They are not sexy, funny, or entertaining in any way. It's just embarrassing to watch the stiff animation play out during these scenes. It's like a cardboard cutout is trying to seduce you. And let's talk about that animation for a second. In the first half of the show, it looks decent. the style is cool, and anything that's not a striptease looks acceptable. Then, halfway through the show, it's like they blew all their money at a real strip club, because the animation style completely changes and turns to utter shit. And all of the animation is much stiffer than before. Stripperella's outfit has changed, entire characters have different designs, certain characters end up being voiced by different people, there's one character who has a different accent in every episode.
Crikey, mate. It's jolly nice to be somewhere where blokes ain't always steering and drooling at your kachoinkas. Vegas, the drinking, the gambling, the indiscriminate sex.
Strip poker?
You don't play strip poker in a casino?
The first half of the show isn't good, but it's watchable. But the second half is a train wreck. On top of all of these very noticeable budget cuts, what little charm that the writing had went down the shitter. The last episode of the show is about a radioactive beaver who bites people and turns them into werebeavers. It is literally this Spider-Man meme, but animated and taken seriously. Which kind of sounds like it could be entertaining, but for the most part, it really isn't. But you don't have to take my word for any of this. I asked my friend the Worst Critic to watch a few episodes and tell me his thoughts. And, well, this is what he had to say.
Fuck you, Randall. I wasted my life watching this shit. Don't let his criticisms distract you from the fact that Randall owns several gallons of Stripperella's bathwater. Now you may be asking yourself, hey, The Worst Critic from youtube.com/theworstcritic, how many episodes of Stripperella did you actually watch? The answer is definitely not 1.5 episodes, because the second episode Critic put on was so bad that he almost put his head through the drywall of his mom's basement. I do have a question for Randall because he's the source of my problems. Why is this show so uncomfortable? I felt gross watching this, and no, I'm not some sort of prude. Give me some Laura Dern and Marriage Story? Oh, hell yeah, brother. Some Samara Weaving and Ready or Not? Oh, you better believe my socks are getting rocked. Danny DeVito and Batman Returns? The grotesque things I would do, I can't even say. I felt like I should be arrested for watching this show. I swear I'm on some sort of list now. This show isn't even funny, as it's just sex jokes. Unfunny sex jokes. I swear this shit was written by myself in high school. None of it has any sort of clever punchlines. Honestly, you could get alcohol poisoning every time you don't laugh at one of those stupid innuendos. Another question for Randall, if he has the courage to actually answer: why is Pamela Anderson whispering all of her dialogue? I'm certain Pamela isn't even certain that she wants to say her lines for fear of sounding like a dumbass. Safe to say her fears were justified, because she sounds like a dumbass. Randall, you will face extinction at my hands for forcing me to endure what could only be described as a war crime. You will face me in Modern Warfare 3 1v1 Hardcore Search and Destroy Terminal Deagles only.
So yeah, given his comments, I think it's safe to say that he hates it. Because of how bad the show is, Stripperella is a character that has basically been forgotten by everyone except people like me who obsess over weird and obscure animations. And while you might think that's for the better, I personally disagree. I think that Stripperella is a character that could work in the hands of the right people. I know what you're thinking at this point, but how? Even if she were revived, she would be marred in controversy by people who think that sexy female characters are a sign of the coming feminist apocalypse. Trust me, I know all of that. But hear me out. I really like the essential ideas of this character. A superhero sex worker meant to spoof every aspect of superheroes is something that could honestly really work, especially in today's oversaturated climate. Oversaturation of the genre was a big reason that Deadpool was received so well, and I think Stripperella could be a good counterpart to that. However, in order to stand out from Deadpool, she would have to stick to making fun of the corny and campy side of superheroes. The Adam West Batman, the Christopher Reeve Superman, and early portrayals of Spider-Man and the Hulk could all be inspirations here. The original show also had a Bond-esque bend to it, and I think that's something you can really play with, given that she's a woman and the James Bond character dynamic would be totally flipped. But what about the issue of her being a stripper? Wouldn't that cause a lot of controversy? Well, it's going to cause controversy no matter how you spin it, but I think it's because she's a stripper that her character would work today. It could go beyond just being a funny action comedy show into being something with an actual substantive message. Because of her overt sexuality, Stripperella could really commentate on current gender politics, from people who slut shame to self-proclaimed feminists who preach female empowerment and freedom with one hand and restrict portrayals and displays of female sexuality with the other. The original show already played with some of these ideas, albeit in a much more tongue-in-cheek tone that doesn't take it as seriously as we do now. There's a two-parter episode in particular that plays with ideas concerning plastic surgery and the obsession with fake beauty that permeates the entertainment industry, which leads to some of the better moments in the show. The plastic surgeon also turns out to be the villain, whose motivations are not unlike your typical incels.
Because my whole life beautiful girls have spurned my advances, I vowed that one day I would make them all pay.
The show not only unknowingly touched on that, but also touched on what we might call female incels, with an episode about a woman who desperately wants her own wedding. These ideas were just silly at the time, but now they're actual issues in the modern world. Stripperella herself is also a character with certain beliefs and moral standards. She's very concerned with animal rights, and again, while this is portrayed in the original show as a joke, you could really do something with it. All of these concepts, in a modern setting, could be expanded upon to greater effect. Now pair all of that with the ridiculous nature of the show, which honestly was not taken full advantage of. The ridiculousness of some of the ideas here really could have been played up to more absurd levels, and it wouldn't be as weird to go there today because of the many superhero films we have now. Honestly, it would be a bit of a refresher to see something as campy and over the top as Stripperella. And there are elements of the original show that I liked and that I would love to see make a comeback. The commissioner in the show was a consistent source of entertainment for me because of how ridiculous his character was.
These chairs are ridiculous and difficult to operate. Thank God I'm not crippled. Stripperella, pick up that sledgehammer and hit me in the groin.
Excuse me?
Also, something that I failed to mention earlier is that Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob, plays several roles in this series.
I'm putting a curse on you! Every August 9th from now on, you will have the worst day ever!
And that's probably something that we will never see again, but I just wanted to mention it. Look, given everything that I've laid out here, I think it should be apparent that this is a character that could work if handed to the right writers and directors. The combination of the over-the-top superhero parody with certain timely messages regarding gender and sexuality could work to make a really fun, entertaining, and substantive comedy show. Or maybe I've just completely lost my mind and you're all laughing at how dumb I am. Either way, I think Stripperella deserves another chance. Hell, Stan Lee certainly wasn't giving up on the character anytime soon. There are videos of him from as late as 2011 talking about making a Stripperella movie.
So tell us about this live action film. Is there any talent attached yet?
Who do we have for Stripperella? Right. There's going to be, I was going to say a nationwide search, but that's too small. There will be a worldwide search, a universe-wide search, if we can arrange that.
And despite how weird the origins and background of this character are, I still think that if Stan Lee had gotten his wish and we had gotten a good Stripperella movie, that it would have been really fun. And as we've seen from past examples, sometimes the weirdest superhero concepts make the best superhero movies or TV shows. Hell, I would even be thrilled to see another Stripperella animated show. I just want something. Just please revive Stripperella into an actual good comedy.